In terms of, like, what you've chosen for a living and just wanted to know a little bit about that and why you chose it and, did, your cultural background, support you through it or have any influence?
Let me think about that.
It's for the
Well,
young folks out there.
so
Mhm,
my mother's a nurse, and
mhm,
my parents are both retired, but my mom's was a nurse, and my dad was a postal worker. So very
mm,
stereotypical Filipino. Um, I I went to the University of California, Irvine, from college, and I was a biological sciences major, and
mm.
with the intent to try to go pre med because I didn't want to do nursing, but I wanted to be in the medical field. But then once I started to struggle through my first quarter and saw how like all the pre med students were, I was just like, oh my god, I can't do this, And so, um, but at the same time, like years, everybody before me that like started school and college, like my mom was just like so used to, like, I'm an only child. So
Mm,
like everybody that she would hear from, it was kind of like what this only she would, she would only hear like negative stories or like stories of everybody's kids changing their majors and doing this and that. So me being the good daughter that I am, I didn't want to change my major because I was struggling. Um, do I regret it? I don't, I really loved the education that I did get at UC Irvine. Not in the biological sciences sense, but in like the
mm,
social sciences sense, and that university learning that I probably wouldn't have gotten to
yeah.
experience at a community college. I mean, I struggled. I struggled a lot as a biosciences major. If I would have like quit and gone to like community college and probably turned to nursing eventually, I don't know where my life would be. Maybe better, maybe not. Financially, probably better. I'm pretty
Mm,
sure, I'm quite sure better. It was 2006. Um, and so right away at that time, the economy was still
2006.
fine.
Yeah, yeah.
and then,
The
and
bubble was getting bigger.
right before the bubble
Mhm,
burst. And so
yeah.
immediately I was getting calls from, I didn't even know that this existed, but it was immediate calls from, what's the word? From like the recruiting companies. And
Headhunters.
Mm.
Oh,
Headhunters,
yeah.
yeah.
And so they were just like finding
Head,
jobs, and I was getting like random like random uh jobs that I could get, but like at the pay of an in and out employee, and so it's
Mm.
oh,
kind of the thing where I was like, wow, this is like, I went to college to get paid $13 an hour, this is uh like, and so it was making me question where I was going in those terms. And then I just, in 2008 hit, I got laid off from my last
yeah.
like job. And um I spent the time like just still looking and kind of like lost and not sure, like, not sure, but I just, I did so bad in school that I didn't want to go back to school again, And so um in terms of that, I mean, I don't think the university uh way, 10 weeks a quarter was not my type of learning. Like I really should have gone to community college first.
Oh
And
gosh.
so, but but I wound up finding this job that I have now, which was in 2009. And because of like I was able to catch on and apply the skills that I have learned probably from a lot of my stuff too, is being organizing a lot of events with church, which are with our Episcopal church, which is predominantly Igorot community, and then as well as bebop stuff. A lot of those skills that I picked up from there, plus the couple of years that I had experience with working as a lab tech in another random lab, got me
Mhm.
the job that I have today, and I've been there for 11 years now, and I wouldn't have left. I mean, I wouldn't have stayed if not for like the fact that we have, a pension and benefits and all these
Ooh,
things,
that's
because that's
huge.
something, yeah. And knowing and hearing from my mom, who is a nurse, she who also jumped from like job to job. Like most nurses will work one steady long job and then have second jobs all along their line. And so that was my mom, but she didn't have like it was all through like small community hospitals. And
Hmm.
so she always stressed like you have to find, and I have a lot of people stress like you have to find a company that will have like a pension, that will have, and that's not easy to come by nowadays. And so
Nowadays,
that,
no. No.
no. And so that's where I kind of kept me now, because now that, my poor mom is, going from a full-time nurse's salary to, probably like 25% of what she was made, like that, depending on, because again, like her retirement account took a big hit with all of these different
Right.
financial struggles. So but anyway, so yeah, that's where I kind of am. And I don't see myself really going anywhere else, kind of thing. Like a lot of my home base is here, and so there's a lot of people that have left our job because home was like, on the other side of the country, or upstate, or up back north. And so
Right.
um so I kind of feel like I'm at a good place in my career. And I actually remember getting some help from another, like somebody from Bebop San Diego with like my resume when I'm helping, because there's very few, you kind of find fewer people in outside of the healthcare industry. So, but
Yeah.
there are, and so when you find those people that are not like, that are in the science line, like it, you kind of like, it's weird how you do, like, you're able to find them and recruit some help, even though you like barely know them, kind of thing. It's like, oh hey, if it weren't for LinkedIn and Facebook, that's kind of how I got help from her. And so I think and then with either Carrie or I don't know which one of the girls up was studying the same kind of like work that I was going into. So, but anybody that's like a biology major, it's kind of like, oh, where are you looking towards? Because I am completely not in where I thought that I was going to be. But
Yeah.
um, but now that I know this kind of industry exists, which is like the sanitation districts, is something that every
Hmm.
big city needs. And so there's a need for all kinds of different lines of work and skills in this kind of workplace. And so yeah,
Working
that
for the
I
city with
for
the
the it's
sanitation
like
department?
we're like a special district for LA County.
Oh
So
wow.
it's like we don't get, so certain benefits, like I think we get paid a little bit better than LA City, but we don't get as much like other like fun benefits, like vacation, like in terms of that. But it balances out, type of thing. But I'm still considered like a government employee.
But it
Um
also helps fund your family,
mhm,
and it helps fund, creates that stability for your young ones to grow into, who they are, which
yeah.
is which is indeed a blessing. And sometimes, um, I think that we make sacrifices so that we can provide for our family
Mhm.
that way.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
yeah. So sometimes those choices, even that the plans, weren't really the plan.
Right.
It comes together. I mean, that's an
Yes.
aspect of faith, but that's also an aspect of finding a niche that that works.
Mhm.
And certainly, that's definitely related to health, and sanitation is definitely
Mhm.
related to health.
Right. I mean, and I know
Yeah.
that if
Yeah.
I didn't get this job and I was still struggling trying to find, I probably would have turned to nursing. And
Mm.
and
Mm.
and I think I was just too scared to be that statistic that, like, oh, a lot of people that go to the, 4-year like college, but then they end up being going back to nursing anyway. And so I just didn't want to like make my mom mad and be like, I see, like, you
That's
could have just done
true.
it through the community college. But
Have
and
you seen the Jokoi's
yes, that's
yeah, his
exactly
whole thing about being a nurse? Like every Filipino
yeah.
mom wants you to be a nurse, and it's
Exactly.
I
I
have
mean,
to admit the same thing with me.
well, that's why. Like, that's
Yeah,
why
it's
in the
true.
way that he ended it with, like, when his son said, like, "I want to be an architect." It's like, but you can't draw. What about nursing? But
Yeah, he switched and
Well,
turned it around.
don't you like that Filipino encouragement? It's always, you can't do
yeah.
that.
Mhm.
You really do
And
that?
that's
You can't do that.
yeah. But sometimes I do wonder, I'm like, if my mom would have done things differently, would I be a nurse right now? Maybe. But at the same time, if my mom wasn't the way she was, like, because I actually have a Filipino supervisor, but she's really Americanized, really, really Americanized. And
Okay.
sometimes but she has like little tendencies where like she'll come down hard and other people will get really affected. And I'm just like, it's
Right.
fine. And, and I'm like, I have a Filipino mom. Like she's, like whatever criticisms that my supervisor can like shoot down, like I can handle. So at the same time, if my mom wasn't the way that she was, I wouldn't be able to handle certain,
Right.
personalities either. So, because I wanted, so it's kind of hard. Like I want to be encouraging for my daughter, but then
Yeah.
I also need to let her know that not everybody's nice, and not everyone's gonna like you. And but it's it's
Yeah.
finding that balance.
Yeah, there's a balance between like the passions that you want to do in your life or what
Mhm.
you think you were gonna do versus like practicality,
Right.
right?
Like
And it's
yeah,
tough. It's tough because
but
like I mean pension is awesome. If you can find a job with a pension, it's like
mhm,
that's just doesn't exist. And then usually like I mean, working for the city is it's
mhm.
lot of Filipinos in San Francisco. Man, they're getting paid really good, and they
Yeah,
started out in the late 70s, and their
yeah.
pay scale has just jumped,
Gone up. Yeah,
And
exactly.
so the
That's
the